He is the host of CNN's Fareed Zakaria, GPS, and author of the new book, 10 Lessons for a Post-Pandemic World. Fareed Zakaria is over here. I was so tempted by habit to lunge at you.
Well, from India, this is a perfectly nice substitute.
Okay, so I read your book in one big gobble. It's great. Great read, quick read, and also, like, right out of the day's headlines. I mean, it's about the pandemic. Right. Very gutsy to write a book before the thing is over, right?
And they call it a post-pandemic world.
Well, yeah, because we see in Europe, the pandemic's coming back in the fall. This thing is far from over. Do you worry about that that something's going to happen that, big like, oh, boy, I should have waited?
Well, I think... No, I think I've got it about right in the sense of what I'm talking about is we now understand this, these problems in a way that we didn't, because this is not going to be the last pandemic. And one of the things I talk about in the book is this should be a wake-up call to realize we've been living in a way that is very risky. If you think about the way in which we're spewing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
And eating.
The way we eat, I talk about the factory farms. Factory farms are essentially a petri dish for the next pandemic. You're just going to create larger and larger, more powerful viruses. The way we subsidize people to live at the edges of forests. So I feel as though we've got, and it's like we're driving the fastest race car in the world, and we're like, who needs seatbelts? Who needs insurance?
But that what you're really saying is we need to learn.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're the learn species. Really. I mean, my question to you is, I hate to say this because it sounds so pessimistic, but I don't think one is going to do it. In other words, one pandemic. I don't think we're going to change after one. I think it's going to take more than one, because people are just going to go, oh, that was a fluke. Thank God 2020's over. We're back to normal. I don't see less cheeseburgers being eaten.
Well, take a look at what has happened in East Asia. Really, these are the countries that have handled the pandemic the best. South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, more than any other.
Also the thinnest.
Well, so part of it is, yes, they don't have the obesity problem, which is, you're absolutely right, a kind of disease multiplier. But they all went through SARS and MERS, and they did badly, many of them. Taiwan actually handled it not so well. It was a worse and they learned from it, and they revamped their public health systems. They moved early and aggressively. They figured out how to do contact tracing. So you can learn. Now, here's the tragedy. Taiwan has handled this better than anyone else, in my view. 24 million people in the country, 7 deaths. To give you a sense, New York State, 20 million people, 34,000 deaths. Now, what the Taiwanese did was they never did a lockdown, Bill. It was smart contact tracing, testing, occasionally very selective closures. But they used good technology, phones, but they used it well. All this stuff was invented in America. The technology was invented in America. The software was invented in America. The guy running the Taiwan response was educated at Johns Hopkins. So they have taken our secret sauce, and we're watching while they're getting it right, and we're foundering.
Again, I agree with all that, but you're mentioning one half of the equation, in my view, the external part. There's the internal part, your immune system, fighting it internally, because viruses are everywhere, and you can't avoid them. And externally, you need to do both. They were successful because of both, because they're healthier internally. And what I object so much about what this country did, yes, Trump, of course, fucked it up. We expect that. But the people like Dr. Fauci and those folks who are the medical staff, they never once had the courage to ask the people to get themselves in better health as the best way to ensure this. They're cowards. They are cowards. They will not ask for that little bit of sacrifice.
I agree with you, but I'll tell you one part of the problem is we have a healthcare system that is so broken, and it is particularly broken for poorer people. Because I saw a really interesting study which pointed out that Germans were a lot healthier than Americans, and even though Germans are very rich and they have they have a diet that is not completely ideal, the big difference was in Germany your annual visit to the doctor is free. because, it's universal health care. And at your annual visit to the doctor always tells you 4 or 5 things, like don't smoke, don't be overweight, exercise, put your seatbelts on when you drive. Just those constant reminders actually play an incredibly large role in your ultimate health outcomes. But we have lots of millions and millions of people who don't go to the doctor because they can't afford
and
the
don't have
copay.
access to good food. I mean, that has to be part of the solution.